I hope you can see it, you can see me, so let's start. The agenda for today is to go through the event log about how it works, well, maybe somehow under the cover. It doesn't sound like something very special, very complex. It's just a logging infrastructure within Windows, but we have some interesting pieces of the infrastructure inside. Okay, when it comes to the monitoring Windows, we have a couple of things. We have different puzzles allowing us to monitor Windows in a pretty deep way. It is about event logs. We have hundreds of them in a default installation. The solution is capable of working with thousands of events per second without an issue, so it is well known and it is quite common to use it. We have performance counters, which are focused mainly on the performance on different components within Windows. Again, thousands of them in the default Windows installation. Good to take a look on them sometimes. We have Debug Output, which is a special channel for developers to tell about what they are doing. The interesting fact is some released projects also from Microsoft are talkative when it comes to the debug output. We have WPP for mainly for hardware developers, I mean for driver developers, etc. We have kernel black boxes, which are kind of black box content being constantly updated within the memory in the well-known place to allow you to read the content of the black box when your system crashes, because the content of the black box is going to the dump as it stays in the memory, and it is easily visible within the debugger if you open the dump. So it is a great place to perform some logging about the stuff which is happening before the crash, because after the crash you can read what happened there. If you are using the typical approach, like creating new file on the disk and so on, no one knows if it is really going to the disk, if it is consistent, etc. So black box is this one. We have also event tracing for Windows, which was the main topic of my talk last year at the same conference. So I will not cover it here. However, we'll use it heavily, and I believe connecting those two pieces of the knowledge is the most valuable approach. When it comes to the event log being the main topic for today, events coming to the log or logs have 5 categories. It is warning, information, error, success, and the failure. Success and the failure are used mainly for security auditing functionalities. For others, we have usually all 3 of them. So I mean information, warning, and error. But every single log and log provider can have own flags saying which events can happen, which are not. Also, on every single log, we have ACL, access control list. We have permissions for logs. I know there is no big deal and no big reason behind specifying precisely which user can read and etc. which log. It is mainly about the security log and all the rest. But anyway, deeply inside, we have those access control lists. We have permissions for logs. When it comes to logs, permissions are read, write, and clear the log content. Starting from version 6 of the Windows kernel, which in practice means from Windows Vista, we have some changes within the infrastructure. Previously, it was stored in the EVT files. Now it's EVTX with slightly different structure, not being backward compatible, of course. Previously, we had 3 logs, sometimes called traditional Windows logs. It is application, system, and security. It was possible to extend this structure. We could observe it in Windows XP. For example, someone added his own log, like Internet Explorer, PowerShell, or some third-party applications. Right now, we have hundreds of such events within the default installation of Windows. And yet another change, it is the change which happened deeply inside, because previously, as the event logging structure was present from the very first version of Windows, I remember it for Windows NT 4.0. It was the first Windows I tried to dig deeply inside. Right now, we are using newer version. In every single version, it was present. I'm not sure about the version before Windows NT 4.0, but I'm quite sure it was present and worked exactly the same way. And it was based on RPC, which means it is not that easy to understand, not that easy to debug, and works perfectly well over the network. For example, reading the event log over the network using built-in tools is perfectly possible. Same when it comes to writing the event log. You can easily write an event to the remote event log. It is perfectly possible. I do not see any big reason behind this, but we can do this using RPC. Right now, it focuses mainly on ETW inside, but the RPC infrastructure is not being dropped at all. So we have both of them, and sometimes it leads to quite interesting effects. When it comes to the performance of event log infrastructure, it is capable of registering thousands of events per second. It is not a big deal, and your Windows will survive it. At the same time, it is about registering events, because if you want to consume them, it is not that easy. I will cover the topic in a moment, but generally saying, it is easier to store something within the event log than taking it out from the log when it comes to the performance and the cost of such operation. On top of it, starting from Windows Vista, we'll have also Windows Event Forwarding, allowing us to pull or push events to some remote system. It is not bad approach to Windows event log centralization, at least kind of. It is just working. And the last but not least, it is worth mentioning here, I will cover it also from theoretical side in a moment, but Task Scheduler is a perfect thing that works together with event logs, because you can create tasks in Task Scheduler not being launched on an alert coming from the internal clock. It is not like every hour or every day. You can easily create a task specifying, please run this task when some event appears in some log. So instead of asking every couple of seconds, do we have some unauthorized logon within the event log, it is way better to create a task in the task scheduler saying, please launch my stuff if an event related to unauthorized logon is being recorded within the event log. I will cover it from the deeper perspective, and this is like a quick approach for admins. Okay, let's go to the real stuff. The very first thing from the live demonstration, it is the programmer approach. This is the bunch of event log function. It is how we can try to read events from the event log, how we can try to approach this. Out of those, there is an interesting set of functions. I will show them to you, a bunch of them, about bookmarking events, which is about reading the log, putting a bookmark, telling the operating system, I have read the log until this point, until this particular log, and later on, doesn't matter if it's 1 hour or 5 seconds later, you can say to the operating system, please provide me all events that happened after the bookmark I was setting a moment or longer moment ago. And it sounds very tempting to use such approach, because you do not have to reread, you do not have to synchronize, you do not have to store your high watermark for events you are using the operating system. The bad thing about this approach is the operating system performance when it's coming to using this way of reaching for the log. Because it is very expensive when it comes to the performance. And I observed like a professional product using this way. As I said, it is tempting for developers working this way. Everything was nice and perfect as long as the number of events was not that high, which is common in the test environment. In the same time, if a product is polling the event log using bookmarks in a frequency that is higher that the period Windows is trying to process the previous query, we are out of luck, especially if all those techniques for being a polite developer when it comes to the performance, like slowing down, decreasing the priority of the thread, etc., are not working here, because it is not your app killing the performance. Is the operating system itself killing performance, and you are using simple query. Please provide me events that happened since the last bookmark I have set. So, well, it may be tempting, but not that much. In practice, the approach I would recommend is to read everything you can read, and then parse it on your own, because reading everything can be faster, especially when it comes to the API, not the PowerShell, because processing all those objects will be time consuming. And also, what you can do is subscribe to events. I mentioned it from the admin side. With the task scheduler, there is an article about this, is about subscribing to event. You can create a subscription to event using two techniques, push and pull. Push is, pull is simpler. Pull is about telling Windows, please send me a signal when some events meeting my criteria appeared in the log. And I'm signaled when such situation happens. And if it happens, I have to process the new events, or I have to deal with this information because the operating system told me, notified me, there is something to be pulled. When it comes to push, it is fully asynchronous because I am creating a callback function, and I'm writing it, and I'm telling the event logging subsystem, please call my function when a criteria is being met. And every single time a new entry within the event log meeting my criteria is appearing, my function is being called, and I'm dealing with, I'm doing what I have to do. Okay, let's return to the admin side. I will launch the well-known application, which is event log. It is on my live machine. Oh, I hope nothing sensitive is happening here. I will not go through the functionality. It's not that complex, and I believe you have a chance to work with this application. One of the important things is to use show analytics and debug logs, because right here we have only a part of logs. I know this number may be quite high, but even if we have a high number of logs, that's not everything that Windows collects. So if you enable show analytic and debug logs, you can see even more. And for example, if it only refreshes, you can see a log related to some antimalware, antivirus. Even if we see it here, for example, there is a AMSI debug log. If you want to work with AMSI, sorry, I'm a malware engineer, so I have to pick the proper example. It is empty because you have to enable it, because it's not enabled by default. Okay, so when it comes to the practical things, the next thing I would like to recommend you is the length of the trail, because here comes the security event log, for example, and the very last event here, it is like 9 days old. This is the length of the trail. Please manage your log sizes if they are overwriting automatically, to keep it reasonable, because I spotted in the real life some logs being overwritten after 2 minutes, and good luck catching the stuff if you are not sending it somewhere. You can set the limit of the trial length with PowerShell. You cannot do this through this interface. Here you can specify only the size of the log and nothing about the time. You can do this with PowerShell if you want, if you need. Okay, let's go and create some events as we are trying to do something more interesting. There is a nice tool being built within Windows. It is provided, around Windows 2000, a bunch of tools provided by the Vipro company was added to Windows. Event create. You can recognize those Vipro events through very specific way of communicating with you. Event create, if you want to see a help, there is some help. And here you can see what I mentioned before. There is a way of asking the remote system, also including some stuff related to the authentication. You have to provide ID and so on. Here, I will launch, I will go here first. So if I do event...
Greg?
Yep.
Could you increase the size of the font?
Sure. Here you have it.
Thanks.
Event create ID1 and then T whatever. It is a type warning. After D, it may be whatever. And I cannot do this as a regular user. As a regular user, I cannot write to the event log using this technique. It is not perfectly true, but when it comes to this technique, I cannot do this. I will increase the font here as well. And if I issue the same command as an admin, obviously, event create slash ID1 slash type warning slash description whatever, and it was created. I didn't specify the log, so it appeared in the application event log. If I go to the application event log, I can see my warning being created here with this particular text, and the source is event create. This is the traditional infrastructure for event logging. Give me a sec. I will try to show you Git. This is regarded from my machine. Here under the event log, current control set services event log, I have registered logs and their providers who can write what to those logs. It is the traditional part, not the new one. Within the provider, you can see a couple of options. For example, type supported. 7 means warning, information, and error. And you can also see some DLLs being reported, and those DLLs are related to strings that are appearing in the event log. And changing those DLLs allows you to keep your event log localized. In the same time, it is a kind of a nightmare because in the event log itself, not all strings are being stored as they stay within the DLL. Maybe it saves a bit of the disk drive space. At the same time, makes the event log slightly less exportable. You can try to fix it with some tool, putting the information inside of the log. But at the same time, please do remember about this. It is localized and it is not that friendly. Okay, I have created it and I have an event over here. Starting from some version of the Windows 10, I'm not perfectly sure which one, it was API function, CVE event write. There is a function CVE event write. It is documented. I have wrapped it into a PowerShell to make it nicer. And I'm wrapping in the Windows, PowerShell function, and then I'm calling this function with some strings and ID. This is the function to store within the event an information about attack related to some CVE. It is just a logging function, but focused on CVE attack attempts on the operating system. If you run this function here, effectively calling this CVE event write, give me a sec. CVE event write, it is not that documented. Actually, it's the same function used here, and that's basically it. I'm calling this one F5 to run my script, and really, it is about which machine I have. Okay, I will try on another machine, because here I cannot see the proper version of .NET Framework. Here I have it, the same one. So here it appeared. If I go to the event log, event viewer, is it working? Because it may be rotten. Yeah, it happened. It is present here. You can see an event. And at the same time, what is worth seeing right here, I'm not an admin at all. I can write an event to the event log, not being an admin, because I have write permission. So it depends on which channel you use. You can have this permission or not, really. I tried to debug this function and disassemble it a bit, the CVE event write, and I will share it with you. Here it is. I try to reproduce the same thing, and deeply inside, this is how this function is working. It is taking CVE ID and details, converting them to Unicode string, then using API function event data create to add this information for CVE ID first, then null string, then capture details next, and then again a null string, and then there is a simple ETW message being sent to the CVE audit provider GUID. And this variable is about user mode. Another version of this is KM, being a kernel mode. And that's basically it. I have sent ETW event, and a new entry appeared in the Windows event log. If I launch event log on my machine, this is my machine, this is an application event log, some message from Outlook from some time ago. If I run this particular piece of C code, it should run exited with code 0. If I go to my event log, I can do F5 and I can see the zifcon 0101 for CVE appearing here. Again, Visual Studio is not running as an admin at all. I have sent this ETW message as a regular user. I'm perfectly allowed to do this. And as an effect of this, of sending it, the event appeared in the Windows event log. So we can send ETW events to make them appearing in the event log. So how it is working deeply inside? The best tool to investigate it deeply inside is not this machine. This is the better machine. Here to see it working, I have a couple of things over here, including the tracelog tool. Tracelog is a part of SDK WDK. It is documented on the Microsoft website. There is a tracelog command syntax webpage dedicated for the tracelog only. When it comes to the tracelog, CLS tracelog, you can see the help is not that simple. I will make it slightly smaller. But what I can do over here, I will query for a logger. I will make it bigger at the same time. Okay. I will query for a logger -q, and it is event log dash system. Let's call system. Previously, I wrote something using ETW to application. With the system is quite similar. And here comes some data about the logger being responsible for the system event log. There are some security description, SDDL for session security. There are some parameters, how it's working, etc. The thing I would like to do here is to display ETW providers being responsible for converting ETW, not providers actually, but which UID of the ETW system is listening to, because if something is being sent under this UID, it will appear in the event log system. There is a parameter -LP, and here you can see this is the list of UIDs which are converted by the event logging subsystem, the new part of the event logging subsystem relying on ETW. Those ETW UIDs, those ETW events are translated into entries within the event log. And if here it is for system, if it's for the application, you will probably find on the list of total 250 providers, you will find somewhere probably the CVE provider as well, being internally translated to the staff responsible for the writing the log. And regular users can do it. So, well, it is interesting because it looks like it depends on which interface you use. You can face access denied, or you can face access allowed. What I can do right here and right now, I can try to go bad, and I can try to stop the provider, because it is just a logging session. So theoretically, I can kill it. The very first thing here, I cannot do this as a regular admin. I must be a local system to do this. It is about the permission of the logger. But let's go this way. So the very first thing, here I will open the system event log on this particular machine. I will take a look. I can see it is quite empty. Let's try. Otherwise, I will try on another machine. I will kill the spooler service, because if I kill some service, some process responsible for the service, probably service manager will drop something in the event log. Task kill /force/image spool sv responsible for spooler exe. I have killed the spooler, and you can see service control manager reported unexpected termination of the service binary, which happens, and which was my idea. And it was reported. It was reported by the service manager taking care about his child processes. So service manager somehow did it. And what I will terminate the logger session for the ETW. As I said, I cannot be a regular admin, so psexec -interactive -system -do not wait cmd.exe. So I have my color cf to keep it different than my regular admin session. Obviously, I am the local system here, and cd temp trace log stop event log system, and you can see the operation completed successfully, which is what I tried to do. Operation status is 0. 0 means that particular logger is no longer working. So what if someone sends an ETW which was on my list of ETW responsible for this particular event log? We can try to do the same way as we did previously. SC start spooler, just in case it is running F7, task kill FIM spool sv.exe, terminated. Again, I'm going to the event viewer, and there is nothing here. The last thing was psexec svc installed. I launched psexec, and it was the last one. So next events after this one didn't appear, especially I have this previous one, Prince Puller stuff. Right now, the system event log is totally blind because I have killed the session connecting ETW with listeners to ETW messages, I could say, with the part being responsible to store events within the Windows event logs. Effectively, I have blinded the system event log. I can do the same with the application event log or other event logs working through ETW providers. I will return to my admin session. It is here, CLS, and I will go to the nice thing because I will try to go to stop security event log. But here I can see an access denied even if I am a local system. I cannot stop this particular trace logging session. Trace log -q for querying event log security will provide me some stuff related to this event log or to the trace log tracing session. And here you can see a parameter not being present everywhere else. I can see the question on the chat. Stopping event log will get triggered easily by EDR. If you're stopping using trace log, yes. If you are stopping, because there is an API for dealing with ETW session, you want to monitor stopping of the session, the fact of existence of the session, and not the moment of killing it with this particular command line utility. So if you pick your way of observing the situation in a smart way, you will catch it with EDR. If you are looking at this particular piece of executable file, probably someone can do the same using some different way. Okay, so I cannot stop the security event log because it is non-stoppable. And what does it mean in practice? There is a function within the API of Windows for stopping the session. And if it is non-stoppable, then function refuse to work, returning access denied as a result. And this function is calling the internal function not being exposed. And this internal function has a parameter saying force or not force. So you can force killing the session if you want, and if you are a part of operating system, being able to call this particular internal function. There is no reasonable way of doing this from the user level. But the operating system sometimes is stopping non-stoppable sessions. The only official and legitimate situation when it happens is the shutdown. At the shutdown function is politely and nicely stopping the session, even if it is non-stoppable. But it is the only operating system inside which is able to call it with the force parameter enabled. If you are reaching it from the API exposed to the end user, the non-stoppable flag is being checked, and you are obtaining the access denied if it is present. Here, for the security event log, it is clearly visible and exposed. Additionally, on top of it, Windows, when launching this particular session at the system start, when the event log is starting, is using hard-coded name, because those sessions are configured through registry, which sessions should be run, with which UIDs, under which names, and so on. This particular one is hard-coded for checking within the operating system code. So the name is being checked. It is for sure event log security, and it is matched if this particular GUID is present here. If it is not this GUID or if it's not this name, it will not start automatically as a non-stoppable. The goal for this is to manipulate, to make somehow your logger doing nothing or providing the false information being launched under this name or under this GUID and marked as unstoppable, effectively rendering the legal event log security not working. So there is some set of checks being hard-coded internally into the code to make Windows sure this is the one. Other logs are non-stoppable and can be perfectly stopped if you have permission for it. By default, it means being a local system. But if you are a local system, you can stop or close a particular channel for ETW flying to event logs. When it comes to the security event log, there is one thing more, because you cannot stop the logger, but there is one thing you can do. If you launch regedit, here under HLM system current set control, there is a set of keys inside responsible for the configuration and information how the system is being working. And here, under this control, there is one key called, not present by default, obviously, you will understand why in a second, mini-nt. What does it mini-nt means? It is created by the Windows installer in the Windows PE environment. So by default, it is not present if you launch your Windows like a legitimate way, like you can see here. But if you launch a Windows PE and the pre-boot or pre-installing environment, a launch installer, this key will be present to somehow signal we are installing the operating system, even if we have fully blown Windows under Windows PE, and to signal it somehow. And the sad, and I would say stupid fact is the auditing subsystem within Windows is relying on this registry key when initializing the auditing subsystem. So if I reboot my machine, reboot is necessary here, unfortunately. Restart, hopefully it will happen quickly. If I reboot my machine, my auditing subsystem will start, and it will do exactly what it's doing when the installer starts. So it will check if we are installing Windows or we are running grown-up Windows. And if we are installing Windows, absolutely nothing is being audited. Effectively, we made event viewer, event viewer, and here if you go to Windows logs, you will see under security log, you cannot see it at all. The message is absolutely strange, but it is not working, simply saying I get it, yes, and I will go to the same place to, I have probably in the favorites, yep, control, and then mini-nt, I will remove it, and I will reboot my system. If I do this, I will not wait with you. You can try it on your own. It is not harmful, but if I do this, you will see the piece of the history between the last shutdown and this particular boot will be absolutely absent. There are a couple of events that are not being useful at all. They may happen, but that's basically it, and nothing is flying to the event log. The set from attacker perspective, fact is it requires a reboot, but still having a fully working Windows without security event logging may be something tempting, at least for some of us. Yet another thing I would like to show you is the thing related to the format of the event log. Because I mentioned it is EVTX, you can simply copy it from the original location. You can export it using API or event viewer, or having automatically made backup for using the built-in functions, so it is possible to keep the event log in the EVTX format. As I said, for some cases we do not have internal strings. Those are stored within DLLs and dynamically mapped, but we have the most important data and we can map it on our own. The question is how I can read that piece of the information. This is the help. I do not need it right now. I have no saved logs over here. I will delete those. Yep. I will delete this one. Yep. And I will go to my PowerShell. There is another piece of code I have written. Actually, it is taking the SVC host and the malware, just strings, and then I'm reading the event log, and I'm replacing within the set of bytes within the event log content SVC host to malware, to somehow falsify what is stored in the event log. Long story short, it will not work as you expect, because within the EVTX format, it is not documented, the format itself, but it is also well reverse engineered, I could say. And it consists of chunks, and those chunks have own CRC territory, and those chunks together have also CRC territory stored within the header of the EVTX file. So if you manipulate the content of the EVTX file manually in the binary way, probably you will end up with something not matching CRC territory checksums. Sometimes you can hear it has internal digital signatures. Well, if CRC territory is a digital signature, you can trust such opinions. Otherwise, you should know it is just CRC territory, so absolutely nothing in common with digital signatures. Anyway, I have replaced all my SVC host with malware, and if I open the log, I will open the original one first. I can see my events over here. It will open at some point, and here I will probably see some SVC hosts, like you can see over here. And right now I will open this one, and I can see it is corrupted, which may happen. I will recreate it from scratch using my stuff here, because it should not be corrupted. But what I want to show you, because I manipulate bytes within new2, but this new one should have only the string being replaced. At some point it will happen. We can see down here. I will open new EVT1 again, and it's not working. Well, I can say it was working. And what I want to demonstrate you, I'm checking if it is the right machine. I did it exactly the same way. As you can see, it is quite fresh. And if it's not working, I will only tell you. Event viewer, it is interesting for me why, come on, no, file, open save log, and then I will open the log from temp, and new one, EVTX, new one. Oh, come on. I can tell you, I did it with the exactly same PowerShell string. There is nothing I have changed here. And using the same set and using the same original file, the only thing that happened since yesterday was uncontrolled crash, but it should be not that much. And it's not open. This one is not opening with some other message, not the same one. Whatever. What was the result if it worked? The result was it would open showing you no single entry about SVC host, no single entry about malware, but instead of showing you 4,000 something events like here, it showed only 180 something like this number of events, because those chunks within the structure not having the proper CRC were simply ignored. Effectively, you obtain couple of percent of the original event log, not the full log. Please be careful about this in your forensics activities, because it leads to a situation when you open some log which was probably corrupted in some way, and you will see only a part of it. And there is absolutely no warning sign, nothing like this. You open the log and you can see for the whole history of the operating system, the system event log, you see like 20 events. Why? There is a bit more, but those are lost. So you can even try to fix the internal structure of the event log, but if you do not fix it properly, it will give you a log which opens perfectly nice, but at the same time contains a tiny piece of the original information you had in the log, even it was corrupted. Yet another thing we can observe under such scenario, after opening this log, Windows will simply drop all those chunks not following the proper format, the proper CRC, and you will see the size of the log dropped dramatically to some lower values. It's because Windows realized some part of it is not valid, so it simply removed it out of the file. So it is relatively easy to destroy your evidence this way. If you want to grab a content from the event log, the corrupted event log, or something you can suspect it's corrupted, do not rely on Windows functions. Because Windows functions will silently mess with the log, manipulating it, and they will not preserve the original content. Please use some reverse engineered created stuff for scrapping the data out of the log, and it will work the way we expect. Okay, so with this nice falling demo, we reach to the end of my fourth slide on my presentation. When it comes to the next one, is about a bunch of tools you can try to play on your own. Event Create is a built-in Windows stuff for creating events. I played with it. It is quite old, but it's working. WEVT Util is a tool for managing logs. So like changing the site and so on. Event Viewer, we all know there is a bunch, two of them, get and new win event in PowerShell. We have different commands in the PowerShell related to event log, but those with win event are the new event log functions, so please try to use those. There is quite advanced way of filtering events, exporting them, going through them. When it comes to the PowerShell, please do remember it may be slow, so it is a one-run script and you are admins. Okay, PowerShell may be a way of doing this. Otherwise, please be aware about the performance it has, and it is not really impressive. Logman is a utility within Windows for managing ETW related stuff. Not that useful in this case, but we can see some things if we really want to do this using Windows stuff. Tracelog, way more useful, is a part of SDK WDK. And it is free from Microsoft as SDK WDK, and Tracelog is the one I had the chance to show you today for stopping, displaying ETW, UIDs, etc. MC is also related to event log, but it's about preparing your own source of events using the old way, but it is a part of it. And also there is my GitHub repo where I play with this, maybe not that much with event log, but if you saw some functions in PowerShell or some code, probably it is there as I'm publishing everything I am able to write literally immediately. So there is something. There is also officially documented API, and that's basically it. Please play with event logs. Please try to change them, manipulate them. In the same time, if you are reading on the blue side, like I'm doing, please be aware about all those things that make them not fully reliable source, especially on systems which were already somehow attacked. Of course, it requires high privileges, but at the same time, if someone gets it, there is no reason to trust such system anymore. That's basically it. Thank you very much